So now we've taken a high-level view of these various models. Think it would be interesting to conduct another straw poll based on what you know right now. Which business model do you think matches your income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity goals? Startup, existing, or franchise?
Ooh, okay. Looking like startup is in the lead right now. Existing business in second. Or no. Oh, yeah, startup is still in the lead. Tie for existing business and franchise. All right, gonna give it a little more time. We got 12 out of 17. Okay, let me show you the results. So looks like startup is in the lead with
Great,
existing business and franchise tied.
excellent. Okay, so with that as your backdrop, that where the majority of you are focused on startups, then existing and franchise being tied, let's talk about some of the myths of franchising. So in the book that's featured on the screen, E-Myth Revisited, why most small businesses don't work and what to do about it. The entrepreneurial myth. The witch says basically, most people think turning what you know, love, and enjoy into a business will make you successful. Well, it turns out that that's not always the case. This book does a great job explaining the importance of not just working in your business, but also on your business. Meaning, just because you're a great baker doesn't necessarily mean you know how to manage, market, and grow a bakery. Further, it's also a myth that most businesses are started by visionary entrepreneurs who risk huge amounts of capitals for reward, like Bill Gates, Richard Branson, Steve Jobs, or Jeff Bezos. Bezos, sorry, Bezos. The reality is that most businesses are not started or run like that. So we're going to unpack more of these myths to make sure that it is not a myth that prevents you from becoming a legend. Myth one, I'll only be successful if I find the right business. Here is something to chew on. The business does not make you successful. You make the business successful. Don't relinquish the power that you own. Many of us define right as what we're already good at. But don't limit yourself. Define your transferable skills from corporate world, delegation, management, marketing, etc. If you have skills in one type of business, you can easily use them in another. Myth two, the secret to success is finding a career doing something I love. Believe it or not, businesses founded on the owner's background, experience, or knowledge have the highest failure rate. If you limit your options to what you're familiar with or good at, you're really placing yourself at a major disadvantage. In fact, I know for me that once that mindset shift occurred, I realized that I could potentially grow to love anything over time if it was aligned with my values and my income, lifestyle, wealth, and equity goals, needs, and expectations. Myth three, I'll know the right opportunity when I see it. That's a trap. Believing that finding the right businesses will be like falling in love. In fact, I'd encourage people to become even more curious about the concepts that they don't have an infinity towards, or an initial infinity, let's say, because become insanely curious. Just because something doesn't have curb appeal doesn't mean that it's not viable. I remember having this exact conversation with my coach and mentor. She said, you strike me as someone who has an open mind and is possibilities driven. Now, does that sound like any of you? And of course, I said yes. She went on to say, and I understand that you are frustrated with you're working so hard and yet you don't get to share the profits. You don't control your schedule and time, and you have no ability to build wealth equity in your job. And again, well, Cindy, you got that right. I'm frustrated. She said, great. So what would you think if I asked you to take a close look at a porta potty concept? Myth four, I can't be in a business I know nothing about. Well, I remember thinking that. I was a lawyer for 40 plus years, advising investment bankers, getting us in trouble with regulators, getting us out of trouble with regulators. I remember thinking, I know nothing about coaching. I've been a mentor, but not a coach. I was absolutely stunned when I learned that most franchise business owners have no previous experience, and yet they continuously seem to outperform their independent counterparts. Counterintuitive, perhaps, But is it because as a business owner, your main priority is running and growing your business? Sometimes having too much technical know-how can be a liability, since you may be tempted to become the technician in the business as opposed to working on the business. Myth 5, I won't have any control with an existing business or franchise. Established business models provide the framework, but you manage, market, and promote the business. You're in charge. Remember, the business does not win unless you win. It's a perfect win-win situation. Myth 6, I can't be creative in an existing business or franchise. The creativity that comes in managing and marketing a proven process, and there's plenty of room for your ideas. McDonald's, Ray Kroc, his success was due in large part because he listened to his internal team and his external customers. Myth 7, I can't afford it. Now, before you let money concerns squelch your future, get education. Go seek the truth and find out what your resources are, like owning a home. There are many ways to finance your future. I bet some of the avenues are ways you've never heard of before. Now, often when you find a proven business, you can leverage other people's money. So with that, we touched on a lot tonight. We discussed the differences between employees and employers. We barely scratched the surface, but we touched on the various different business models. And I hope I've also dispelled some common myths. But as we close, let's look back to our business in Brooklyn. Fundamentally, you have to have the personal motivation to make meaningful change in your life. It helps if you can work on and start figuring out your primary aim in your life.